Hi, my name is Saray del Rosario, and I will reading about the final project of English 5. I will reading The Selfish Gigant. Every afternoon, after they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in this chicken garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there over the grass stood beautiful flowers like stars, and three were 12 peach trees that in the springtime broke out into delicate blossoms of pink and pearl, and in the autumn bore in rich fruit. The birds sat on the trees and sang so sweetly that the children used to stop their games in order to listen to them happy. How happy we are here, they cried to each other. One day, the giant came back. He had been to visit his friend to Cornish Oak, and had stayed with him for 7 years. After the 7 years were over, had said all that he had to say. For this conversation was limited and determined to return to his own castle. When he arrived, he saw the children playing in the garden. "What are you doing here?" he cried in very gruff voice, and the children ran away. "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Any one can understand that, and I will allow nobody to play in but myself." So he built a high wall all around it and put up a notice board. Trespassers will be prosecuted. He was a very selfish giant. The poor children had no here to play. They tried to play on the road, but his road was very dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. They used to walk around the high wall when their lessons were over and talk about the beautiful garden and said, "How happy were we there?" they said to each other. Then the spring came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. Only in the garden of the selfish giant it was still winter. The birds did not care to sing in it out there were no children, and the trees forgot the blossoms. Once a beautiful flower put its head out from the grass, but when it saw the notice board, it how were placed were the snow and the frost. "Spring has forgotten this garden," they cried. "So we will live here all the year round." The snow covered up the grass with her great, with cloaked, and the force painted all the trees silver. Then they invited the north wind to stay with them, and they came. He was warped in force, and he roared all day about the garden, and blew the cream post down. "This delicate spot," he said. "We must ask the hail on a visit." So the hail came. Every day the 3 hours he returned in the roof of the castle till he broke most the stairs, and then he ran round and round the garden as fast as he could go. He was dressed in gray and breath was like ice. I now understand why the spring is so late in coming, said the selfish giant, as he sat at the window and looked out at his cold white garden. I hope there will be change in the water. But the spring never came, not the summer. Then out gave golden fruit to every garden, but to the king garden she gave none. He's selfish, she said, so it was always winter there, and the north wind, and the whale, and the forest, and the snow dance about through the trees. One morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It sounded so sweet to his ears that the thought it must be the king's musicians passing by. It was really only a little linnet singing outside his window, but it was so long since he had heard a bird sing in this garden that it seemed to him to be the most beautiful music in the world. Then the hail stopped dancing over his head, and the north wind ceased roaring, and a delicious perfume came to him through the open casement. I believe the spring has come at last, said the giant, and he jumped out of bed and looked out. What, is, what did he see? He saw a most wonderful scene. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree that he could see, there was a little child, and the trees were so glad to have the children back again that they have covered themselves with blossoms and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about the twittering with delight, and the flowers were looking out through the green grass and laughing. It was a lovely sense. Only in one corner it was still winter. It was the farthest corner of the garden, and in this was standing in a little boy. He was so small that he could not reach up the branch of the tree, and he was wandering all round it crying bitterly. The poor tree was still quiet, covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above. It climbed up, little boy, said the tree, and it bent its branches down as low as a coal. But the boy was too tiny, and the giant heart melted as he called out, "How selfish I have been," he said. "No, I know why the spring would not come here. I will put that poor little boy on the top of the tree, and then I will knock down the wall, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever." He was really very sorry for what he had done. So he crept downstairs and opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened, and they all ran away, and the garden became winter again. Only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were so full of tears that he did not see the gigant coming, and the gigant stole up behind him and took him gently in his hand and pulled him up into the tree. And the tree broke out also into blossom, and the birds came to a sang on it. And the little boy stretched out his two arms and flung then round the gigant's neck and kissed him. And the other children, when they saw the gigant, that the gigant was not weakened any longer, came running back, and with them came the spring. It is your garden now, little children, said the giant, and he took a great axe and gnawed down the wall. And when the people were going to market at 12 o'clock, they found the gigant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. All day long they played, and in the came every day came to the king to bid him goodbye. But where is your little companion? He said. The boy ate upon into the tree. The king loved him the best because he had kissed him. We don't know, answered the children. He was gone away, not not know where he lived, and have never seen him before, and the gigant felt very sad. The gigant loved was never seen again. The gigant was very kind to all the children. Yet the longer for his first little friend, and often spoke of him. How we will like to see him, he used to say. Years went over, the king grew very old and feeble, and he could not play about any more. So he sat in a old armchair and watched the children at their games and admired his garden. I have many beautiful flowers, he said, but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all. One winter morning he looked our, out of his windows as this dressing. He did not hate the winter now, for he knew that immediately the spring slept and the flowers were resting. Suddenly he rubbed his eyes in wonder and looked. It certainly was marvelous. Seen in the farthest corner of the garden was a tree quite covered with lovely with blossom. Its branches were all golden, and silver fruit hung down for him, and underneath it stood the little boy he had loved. Down turns round the gigant in great joy, and out into the garden. He danced across the grass and came near to the child. And when he came quite close, his face grew red with anger, and he said, "How art dare to entreat?" For on the palms of the child's hand were the prints of two nails, and the prints of two nails were on the little feet. How had dared to Aunt Tree, cried the giant. Tell me that I may take my big soul and slay him. Nay, answered the child, but these are the arms of love. How art thou? said the giant, and a strange awe fell on him, and he knelt before the little child. And the child smiled on the giant and said to him, You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise. And when the children ran in the in that afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. The end. Thank you.